What's going on, everybody? As you saw in the beginning, I was unboxing this guy. It's the Seagate Backup Plus Hub, 8 terabytes. It's essentially a big backup device, storage device for files, for anything that I'm doing on my computer. I got this because back in the day on my MacBook, when I was first starting off with video editing, it's only a 500 gigabyte SSD or flash drive on my MacBook. Very fast computer, still to this day. It's a late 2013 models, but it still works like a beast. But when I was doing the video editing, I was saving everything to my computer, and down the road, I eventually started getting this notification saying, storage full, clear out some hard disk space. In the beginning, I didn't know what the hell that was. Did my research finding out that everything I was saving on my computer was staying on my computer and taking up too much space and slowing things down, and I wasn't able to keep a lot of my footage. So with that, I ended up investing into a external hard drive, a Seagate 2 terabyte hard drive, and started transferring all of my stuff there. And in fact, what I was doing is in the beginning, I was editing on iMovie, and then I later progressed to Final Cut Pro. But what I was doing there is I opened up my library, my Final Cut Pro library and projects in the external hard drive, not necessarily the flash drive or SSD drive that's on the computer itself. And so for the longest time, that was my workflow. That is what I was doing. I had my project files and everything saved on the external hard drive and doing all my video editing processes and things like that, which was fine. At the time, I was clueless and oblivious to what I was actually doing, and I was just going with the flow. So everything was being saved on this external hard drive. I then needed some more workspace and upgraded to what you see here is the latest mid 2017, if you will, 5K, 27-inch 5K iMac. And I got my receipt and whatever, and basically the Apple page up here as well, just to go over what is in this computer and reasons why I got it. So number one, I need more space, and I didn't really like the external monitors that I was using just because it was just lower resolution. So I just wanted the best of the best from the, I guess, Apple side of things, not necessarily a PC guy. So what I did is I got the 27-inch 5K iMac. I upgraded from the 3.8 gigahertz up to the 4.2 with turbo boost up to 4.5. So I just basically upgraded the speed there. I kept my RAM memory at 8 gigs because I invested into RAM myself, which is a lot cheaper. So definitely do not purchase the Apple RAM if that is an option and you're looking to upgrade. Buy it on your own. You'd save yourself thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Hundreds to thousands of dollars, not hundreds of thousands. I believe right now this computer has 40 gigabytes of RAM. Essentially, I got it with the standard 8 gigs, and then I bought 32 gigs more and just installed it myself. Very simple, very easy, and very inexpensive when it comes to that. And then as far as the storage, instead of the Fusion drive that comes standard, I upgraded to the 1 terabyte SSD, or flash drive is what they call it for Apple. So that's what's in this computer, and I upgraded it to a lot of the faster aspects because I wanted that extra speed with my video editing and everything else I'm doing for my business, as well as other projects that I do. So I went from kind of going through the timeline, went from my MacBook with a 500 gigabyte SSD. That ended up becoming full. I invested into an external hard drive that's just a regular hard drive. It's not the SSD versions. And I was doing all of my projects on that external hard drive, but not really knowing at the time that hard drives are slower than SSDs. So the hard drive that was on my MacBook is so much faster than the external hard drive that I was editing and doing everything else on. From there, I upgraded to a big and fast iMac. And I also, at the same time, upgraded to another external hard drive. I got the Western Digital, or WD, 4 terabyte Passbook. And same thing. I opened up my library and all my projects on that 4 terabyte external hard drive, and I was doing all of my editing on that hard drive. And what I was experiencing when doing all my editing in Final Cut Pro is that there's this notification up here, and I'll go into a screen share or screenshot in a little bit, but there's a little check mark notification here Whereas if it's not checked, that means it's doing something in the background, whether it's rendering, a bunch of other things. But what I kept noticing is that it continuously would back up the work that I was doing on a regular and frequent basis, and it slowed up a lot of my workflow and my processes. And I'm like, trying to wrap my brain around, why is this thing always backing up? How do I turn it off, or how do I postpone it for a little bit? And why is it so slow? So what I was doing is that when you check in here, you can actually cancel the backup process and let it do it later. So I was doing that. I was kept exiting out of the backup process just so I can get my work done faster and let it back up later on. Then all of a sudden, I don't know, it was kind of a eureka aha moment. I knew SSD was faster than your external hard drive. I knew that. And I bought this computer for a reason, for speed and to speed up my workflow, especially video editing. Video editing can be very cumbersome and very slow depending on 4K files, how big they are. If you got a lot of rendering to do, got a lot of just a lot going on within your timeline, it can really slow things down. So I knew I had a fast computer, and I just wanted the external hard drives for more storage and not saving everything onto my computer. But what I was doing wrong is I was editing everything off this slower hard drive, the external hard drive, when I should be editing on the fastest drive I have available. And that is the computer's SSD or flash drive within it. It's a 1 terabyte SSD. Again, aha, eureka moment. Now I wanted to show you guys or tell you guys what my workflow is. So before, instead of working on a library project and everything in the external hard drive, I have my SSD library, if you will, where I'll upload all my videos, what I'm going to be editing on, and then I create my projects on this SSD drive, do all of my editing, rendering, basically complete the project on the SSD because it's so much faster, and then I'll copy it and save it onto the external hard drive for storage later. And then once the project is completed on the SSD and then saved onto the hard drive, the external hard drive, I'll then just delete whatever is on the SSD and ready to go for my next project. So that is my current workflow. I have no idea why, after a couple of years now, I just figured it out. So hopefully if you're watching this and you're looking to speed up your workflow and speed up your editing process, hopefully you're already doing this. And if you're not, I encourage you to do this process because it's going to save you so much more time editing on your fastest hard drive available, whether it's your computer's hard drive, hopefully it's an SSD. If you don't, maybe invest into an external SSD like the Samsung, and I see that Western Digital now has some SSDs as well. Those are around for 500 gigs. You can get those for about 170, at least right now. They're typically around 200, and if you go up to a terabyte SSD external hard drive, those can get into the 300 pluses. So if you don't have a fast hard drive on your computer, I encourage or recommend investing into an external SSD and edit on those, and then buy some big memory. These are dirt cheap, or it's all relative to the individual, but $150 for 8 terabytes. I mean, that's a pretty dang good deal. So edit on your fastest hard drive, whether it's your computer's or an external SSD, and then transfer all of your completed work or other videos that you're going to be editing or using at a later time, save it to a big hard drive that's slower, where you just need it for storage. You don't necessarily need it for performance. So with that said, I have a little test or a little example I want to show you of just rendering out doing an automatic speed for a 120 frames per second clip. So I'm gonna go into my screen here, let you guys see the speed that the SSD will render out this 120 frame per second clip versus the working off a hard drive. That way it puts a little bit of perspective on how much faster you can get some work done with your video editing on your faster hard drive than going through the process that I was doing because I was an idiot at the time. So check it out.
All right, you guys. So we are in Final Cut Pro on my mid 2017 5K iMac with some upgrades for speed and performance. This test, we are going to figure out or test the retime speed for the external hard drive that I've been editing on for some time now. It's the Western Digital Passport versus the computer's flash or SSD drive. So the test that we have here, it's a 30-second clip that was recorded at 120 frames per second. It is in a 24 frame per second timeline. So it should render out to a 5 times slow motion speed. How I'm going to do this test, I'm just going to hit the retime button here, hit automatic speed, and when the check mark disappears in the top left corner, that means it's going to start its process. Once it does that, I'm going to hit the start button on the stopwatch on the phone, but I'm also going to have an accurate timer on the video for you guys to see how long or how fast these clips are rendering out. With that said, let's get started with the hard drive test and then move on to the SSD test. So hit the automatic speed, check mark goes away, hit the stopwatch. This it's going to take more than a minute because I've done this test multiple times. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward and catch back in with you guys when the render time has been completed before moving to the SSD test. Alright guys, so it just wrapped up and I hit the stop button at 2 minutes and 29 seconds to render out on the hard drive. A 30-second clip rendered out at automatic speed took 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That is a long time compared to what I'm currently doing. So with that said, I'm going to move on to the SSD test. I've done it many times. This one should take probably about a little under 30 seconds, but we will see. I'll check back in once we get there. All right, you guys, so now you see SSD render test. We are now in the computer's hard drive. I'm going to do the exact same thing. We have the exact same scenario, clip, all that good stuff. I'm going to hit the automatic speed. When that check mark goes away in the top left corner, I'm going to hit the start button and we will see how fast or slow this is. And that is it. So as I mentioned, under 30 seconds, I clocked it in at 26 seconds compared to the external hard drive's 2 minutes and 29 seconds. So now you can see the comparison in perspective of what I was doing for the longest time, editing and doing everything off an external hard drive, and how slow and monotonous that process can be, to now using the fastest drive available, which is my computer's hard drive or SSD drive, and it took under 30 seconds to render out, do the exact same job. So do not do what I was doing in the past. Edit off your fastest drive available and use these external hard drives for mass storage or portability for on the go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. You found it informative. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe for future content, and I'll see you in the next one.